The fluorescent lights of Atlanta Memorial Hospital's maternity ward cast harsh shadows across Maya Johnson's face as she clutched her newborn daughter against her chest. 3 hours old. That's how long her baby girl had been in this world before her father decided they weren't worth keeping. Sign the papers, Maya. Derrick's voice was ice-cold, clinical. He stood at the foot of her hospital bed in his expensive Tom Ford suit, looking more like a corporate executioner than the man who'd whispered promises in her ear 9 months ago. My lawyer's waiting. Maya's hands trembled as she looked down at the divorce documents he'd placed on her tray table, right next to the congratulatory flowers the nurses had brought. Her body still ached from 18 hours of labor. Her dark skin was ashen with exhaustion. And her husband of 4 years was asking her to sign away their marriage while their daughter, their beautiful, perfect daughter, slept in her arms. Derrick, please. Can we just talk about this? Her voice cracked. Our baby was just born. She's 3 hours old. Can't this wait? No, it can't wait. He adjusted his Rolex with the same casual indifference he'd shown when the nurse had asked if he wanted to cut the umbilical cord. He declined, claiming he had an important call to take. I've already waited too long as it is. Jasmine deserves better than this charade. Jasmine. The name hit Maya like a slap. Not their daughter's name, they'd agreed on Zoe, but the name of Derrick's colleague at the investment firm. The 24-year-old analyst with the long blonde hair and the family connections Derrick had always coveted. The woman he'd been sleeping with for the past 6 months while Maya's belly grew with his child. You're really doing this now? Maya's voice was barely a whisper. Here? While I'm still bleeding from giving birth to your daughter? Don't be dramatic. Derrick's jaw tightened in that way it always did when he was annoyed. You'll be provided for. The settlement is more than fair. You keep the condo, I'll cover 6 months of expenses, and you'll get reasonable child support payments. My lawyer made sure it's all very generous. Generous. Maya wanted to laugh, but the sound caught in her throat. She'd given up her career as a software engineer when they got married because Derrick insisted his wife shouldn't work. She'd spent 4 years making his home perfect, hosting his colleagues, supporting his climb up the corporate ladder. And now he was calling 6 months of expenses generous. What about Zoe? Maya looked down at her daughter's tiny face, her brown skin already a perfect blend of both their complexions. She's your daughter, Derrick. She has your eyes. Don't you want to even hold her? Something flickered across Derrick's face, guilt, maybe, or regret, but it was gone so fast Maya wondered if she'd imagined it. Of course she's my daughter. I'm not denying that. But Jasmine and I are getting married next month, and this situation needs to be resolved before then. Clean break. Fresh start. Next month. He'd already scheduled his next wedding before his current marriage was even legally over. The door to Maya's room swung open and a nurse walked in, her dark eyes immediately taking in the scene with professional concern. Mr. Johnson, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Ms. Johnson needs rest, and the baby needs to feed soon. I'm her husband, Derrick said coldly. You're upsetting my patient, the nurse replied, her Caribbean accent thick with disapproval. And that's not good for her recovery or the baby. You need to go. Now. Derrick's face flushed with anger, but he picked up his briefcase with jerky movements. I'll have my lawyer contact you, Maya. You have 48 hours to sign those papers. After that, things get less friendly. He paused at the door, not looking back. And for what it's worth, I did love you. Once. But you were never really what I needed. Jasmine understands my world in a way you never could. After he left, the nurse, her name tag read Gloria Martinez, RN, gently took baby Zoe from Maya's arms and placed her in the bassinet. Let me guess. He's leaving you for someone else? Maya nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. Men. Gloria shook her head with disgust. They think they can just walk away from their responsibilities. Does your family know what's happening? I haven't told them yet. Maya's voice was small. my siblings, they're going to be so angry. They never liked Derrick to begin with. Maybe you should call them, honey. You shouldn't go through this alone. Gloria adjusted Maya's fore with gentle hands. You just had a baby. You need support right now, not this kind of stress. After Gloria left, Maya stared at her phone for a long time before finally opening her contacts. 5 names stared back at her, 5 people who'd loved her fiercely all her life, 5 siblings who'd warned her about Derrick from the very beginning. Marcus. Her oldest brother, 38, CEO of a private equity firm in Manhattan. The one who'd built his first company at 23 and sold it for $40 million by 30. The one who'd told Derrick at their wedding that he'd better treat Maya right or answer to him. Simone. 36, a neurosurgeon at Johns Hopkins who'd pioneered a new technique for treating brain tumors. She'd been the one to pull Maya aside before the wedding and ask if she was sure Derrick loved her for who she was, not what he thought she should be. Donovan. 34, founder of a tech startup that had just gone public and made him one of Forbes 30 under 40. He'd offered Maya a job at his company 3 times, and each time Derrick had convinced her to decline. Nia. 32, a civil rights attorney who'd argued cases before the Supreme Court. She'd been the most vocal about her dislike of Derrick, calling him a social climber with delusions of grandeur. And Isaiah. 29, just a year older than Maya, a professional basketball player whose face was on billboards across the country. He'd been the gentlest in his warnings, simply telling Maya that she deserved someone who saw her light. Maya had ignored them all. She'd been so sure Derrick loved her. So certain that their doubts came from overprotectiveness. So desperate to prove she could make her own choices without her successful, overbearing siblings interfering. How stupid she'd been. Her thumb hovered over Marcus's name. It was 11 p.m., but she knew he'd answer. He always answered for her. The phone rang once before his deep voice came through. Maya? Everything okay? Did you have the baby? Marcus. His name came out as a sob. I need help. 20 minutes later, Maya's hospital room resembled a war council. Marcus had arrived first, still wearing his suit from whatever late meeting he'd been in. Simone had driven down from Baltimore. Donovan had canceled a board meeting. Nia had walked out of a dinner with a potential client. And Isaiah had left practice early, still in his teen warm-up gear. They stood around her bed like 5 pillars of fury, each one processing the story Maya had just told them in their own way. Marcus's jaw was clenched so tight Maya could see the muscle jumping. Simone's hands were fisted at her sides. Donovan was typing furiously on his phone. Nia looked like she was mentally composing a legal brief. And Isaiah sat on the edge of Maya's bed, holding her hand while tears tracked down his face. I'm going to kill him, Marcus said finally, his voice deadly calm. I'm literally going to find Derrick Johnson and end his existence. Get in line, Nia added. But first, I'm going to destroy him legally. Everything he has, everything he thinks he's built, it's about to become rubble. Can we see the papers? Simone asked, her surgeon's training keeping her focused even as rage simmered in her eyes. Maya handed over the divorce settlement, and her siblings huddled together, reading through it with increasing disgust. 6 months of expenses? Donovan looked up, his expression incredulous. He's offering you 6 months? This man makes 7 figures a year and he's offering you 6 months? The child support is insulting, Nia said, flipping through pages. Barely covers daycare in this city. And he wants joint custody but only wants the baby every other weekend? He doesn't want a daughter, he wants a photo opportunity. Look at this. Simone pointed to a clause. He's trying to waive all future claims to any increase in his income. So when he makes partner, when his stock options vest, when his bonuses come through, you get nothing. This isn't a settlement, Maya. This is a robbery disguised as paperwork. Marcus took the papers from Simone's hands and methodically tore them in half, then in quarters, then into confetti that he let rain down on the hospital floor. She's not signing this garbage. Maya, where's your phone? Why? Maya asked, exhausted beyond measure. Because you're calling your lawyer. Oh wait, you don't have one because Derrick convinced you that you didn't need separate representation since you'd never get divorced. Marcus's voice dripped with sarcasm. Well, guess what? You need one now. And I know exactly who to call. He pulled out his own phone and dialed a number from memory. Jonathan? It's Marcus Johnson. I need you to take on a case. Family law, divorce, high net worth individual trying to screw over my baby sister who just gave birth 3 hours ago. Yes, I'm serious. I don't care what you're charging other clients, I want your best work on this. She's at Atlanta Memorial, room 412. See you in 20 minutes. After he hung up, Marcus turned to Maya with an expression that was somehow both furious and infinitely gentle. Maya, baby girl, I need you to listen to me very carefully. You are not alone. You are never alone. You have 5 siblings who love you more than anything, and we are about to show Derrick Johnson what happens when someone messes with our family. But the money, Maya started. Stop. Simone cut her off. Maya, do you know what our combined net worth is? Because I guarantee you it's more than Derrick Johnson will make in his entire lifetime. Money is not an issue. Your dignity is. Your daughter's future is. Making sure that man understands he made the biggest mistake of his life, that's the issue. Donovan was still typing on his phone. I'm already getting information. Derrick works at Sterling and Associates, right? The investment firm downtown? Maya nodded. Interesting. Because Sterling and Associates does a lot of business with my company. We send them about $40 million a year in investment capital. Donovan's smile was sharp. I wonder how they'd feel knowing one of their associates just abandoned his wife and newborn baby in a hospital room. Don, you can't, Maya protested weakly. Can't what? Make informed decisions about where my company does business? That's literally my job, sis. Donovan's eyes were cold. I'm not doing anything illegal. I'm just choosing not to associate with people who lack basic human decency. I can work with that, Mia added. There are several professional ethics boards that would be very interested in Derrick's conduct. Especially if it comes out that he's been misappropriating marital assets to fund an affair. Because that condo he wants you to keep? I'm betting it's mortgaged to the hilt and he's trying to dump the debt on you. Isaiah, who'd been quiet through all of this, finally spoke. Maya, do you remember when we were kids and those boys at school were bullying you because you were taller than them? Maya smiled despite her tears. You beat up 3 8th graders even though you were only in 6th grade. Got suspended for a week. And I'd do it again. Isaiah squeezed her hand. That's what we do. We protect each other. Always have, always will. So you rest, you feed that beautiful baby girl, and you let us handle Derrick. Okay? Before Maya could respond, there was a knock at the door. A tall white man in an expensive suit walked in, carrying a leather briefcase and exuding the kind of confidence that came from winning impossible cases. Jonathan Pierce, he introduced himself, shaking Maya's hand with surprising gentleness given his intimidating presence. Marcus filled me in on the basics during the drive over. I've already filed an emergency motion to freeze all marital assets pending a full accounting. Your husband won't be able to transfer, sell, or liquidate anything without court approval. You already filed? Maya asked, stunned. How? I made some calls from the car. I know the judge who's on duty tonight, and when I explained the situation, husband serving divorce papers to his wife hours after she gave birth, he was more than happy to sign the order. Jonathan pulled out his tablet and began taking notes. Now, I need you to tell me everything. Every asset, every account, every investment. And most importantly, I need to know about Jasmine. Over the next hour, Maya told Jonathan everything. The joint accounts Derrick had slowly drained. The investment properties he'd bought in his name only using money from their joint savings. The way he'd isolated her from her family and friends. The colleagues who'd looked at her with pity at company events, clearly knowing about the affair before she did. With each revelation, her siblings' anger grew more palpable. Marcus paced like a caged lion. Simone made notes about resources Maya would need. Donovan continued his research on Derrick's business dealings. Mia started building a legal strategy. And Isaiah just held Maya's hand, his presence a steady anchor in the storm. "Here's what's going to happen," Jonathan said when Maya finished. "First, we're going to do a full forensic accounting of every penny Derrick has touched in the last 4 years. If he spent marital money on his mistress, and I guarantee he did, that's dissipation of assets and you're entitled to reimbursement. Second, we're going for full custody with him having supervised visitation only until he can prove he's a stable, reliable parent. Third, we're calculating child support based on his actual income, not the lowball number I'm sure he reported. And fourth, we're going after alimony. Georgia is still a fault state, and abandoning your wife in a hospital bed hours after childbirth? That's not going to look good to any judge. But I don't want to be vindictive," Maya said softly. "I just want what's fair." "Fair?" Mia's voice was sharp. "Maya, fair would be Derrick getting exactly what he's trying to give you, nothing. Fair would be him understanding that actions have consequences. Fair would be him losing everything the way he was willing to let you lose everything." "Your sister's right," Jonathan agreed. "But more than that, think about Zoe. Think about what you want to teach your daughter about standing up for herself. Do you want her to grow up thinking it's okay for men to treat women this way? Or do you want her to grow up knowing that the women in her family are strong enough to demand respect?" Maya looked down at Zoe, sleeping peacefully in her bassinet, oblivious to the drama surrounding her arrival in the world. Her daughter. Her beautiful, innocent daughter who deserved better than a father who couldn't be bothered to hold her. "Okay," Maya said, her voice growing stronger. "Do it. All of it. I want fair, and I want him to understand that he made a mistake." "That's my girl," Marcus said with grim satisfaction. "Now, let's talk about immediate needs. Maya, you're not going back to that condo. Derrick's probably already changed the locks anyway." "I don't have anywhere else to go," Maya protested. "You're coming to stay with me," Simone said firmly. "I have a 5-bedroom house in Baltimore that's way too big for one person. You'll have your own space, help with the baby, and you'll be away from Atlanta and all the gossip." "I can't ask you to, you're not asking. I'm telling." Simone's expression softened. "Maya, you're my baby sister. Let me take care of you for once. And I'm setting up a trust fund for Zoe," Donovan added. $10 million to start. Education, healthcare, whatever she needs. She's a Johnson, and Johnson children don't want for anything. "Donovan, that's too much, it's not enough," he countered. "But it's a start." "Marcus?" "Already on it. I'm transferring $500,000 to Maya's personal account tomorrow. Operating expenses, lawyer fees, whatever you need." Marcus's voice was matter-of-fact, as if moving $500,000 was as simple as buying groceries. "And I'm connecting you with the best family therapist in Baltimore," Simone said. "Someone who specializes in postpartum care and divorce trauma. You're going to need support processing all this, especially with your hormones going crazy right now." Isaiah spoke up. "I'm planning my schedule so I can visit every weekend. Zoe needs her uncle, and you need someone to make you laugh when everything feels dark." Mia checked her watch. "It's almost midnight. Maya, you need to rest. The real work starts tomorrow. But tonight, you sleep knowing that you have an army behind you. And tomorrow, Derrick Johnson is going to wake up and realize he just declared war on the wrong family." As her siblings filed out one by one, each stopping to kiss her forehead or squeeze her hand, Maya felt something she hadn't felt in months. Hope. She wasn't alone. She'd never been alone. She'd just forgotten for a while what it meant to be a Johnson. The next morning, Maya woke to sunlight streaming through her hospital window and the sound of Zoe fussing in her bassinet. For a moment, she forgot everything that had happened. Then it all came crashing back: Derrick's cold voice, the divorce papers, the way he'd walked out without even looking at his daughter. But then she remembered her siblings' fierce love, their immediate mobilization, their absolute refusal to let her face this alone. She remembered Marcus tearing up Derrick's insulting settlement offer, Simone offering her a home, Donovan setting up a trust fund, Nia building a legal strategy, and Isaiah promising to visit every weekend. She picked up Zoe and held her close, breathing in that perfect newborn smell. "Your daddy made a mistake, baby girl," she whispered. "But you're going to be just fine. Because you've got a mama who loves you, and 5 aunts and uncles who would move heaven and earth to protect you." Her phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Derrick's firm just got a call from 3 of their biggest clients, all asking about the Johnson account. Words getting around. "Stay strong, baby sis." Then one from Simone, "Bought you a car seat, bassinet, and enough baby supplies to stock a nursery. Moving truck comes to the condo tomorrow to get your things. You don't have to see him." From Donovan, "Sterling and Associates lost the contract with my company this morning. $40 million a year, gone. Sometimes karma works fast." From Nia, "Filed motions for emergency custody, restraining order on marital assets, and discovery on all of Derrick's accounts. He's going to have a very bad day when he gets served." And from Isaiah, "Got you courtside seats for next season. You and Zoe. Because she should grow up knowing she's a VIP." Maya was still reading the messages when Gloria, the nurse from last night, came in to check her vitals. "You look better today," Gloria observed. "More color in your face. The family visit helped?" "More than I can say," Maya admitted. "They reminded me who I am. Who we are." "Good. Because that man yesterday? He doesn't deserve you or that beautiful baby." Gloria checked Zoe's bassinet. "You know what I learned in my 20 years as a nurse? The measure of a man isn't what he does when life is easy. It's what he does when things get hard. And honey, walking out on your wife hours after she gives birth? That tells you everything you need to know about his character." There was a knock at the door, and a hospital administrator entered, looking uncomfortable. "Ms. Johnson? I'm sorry to disturb you, but there's a situation. Your Huss, Mr. Johnson, is in the lobby demanding to see you. He's quite insistent." "Tell him I'm not accepting visitors," Maya said firmly. "I did. He's saying he has legal rights as your husband and the baby's father. He's threatening to call his lawyer." "Then I'll call mine." Maya picked up her phone and dialed Jonathan Pierce's number. He answered on the first ring. "Maya. What's wrong?" "Derrick's here. He's in the lobby demanding to see me." Put the administrator on the phone. After a brief conversation that Maya couldn't quite hear, Jonathan's voice came back through. "Okay, the hospital is having security escort him out. He can't force his way into your room, and given that he served you with divorce papers yesterday, he's not exactly operating from a position of legal authority as a concerned husband. How are you doing?" "Honestly? Better than I expected. My siblings came through. I heard. Marcus called me at 6 a.m. with some additional information about Derrick's assets. Apparently, he owns a lake house he never told you about. Bought it 2 years ago using money from a joint investment account." Maya felt a flash of anger. "I didn't know about any lake house." "I know. That's why it's called hiding assets. But don't worry, we found it. And we're going to find everything else he's hiding. The forensic accountant I hired is very good at her job." Jonathan paused. "Maya, I need to tell you something. This is going to get ugly. Derrick's going to fight back, and he's going to say things about you that aren't true. He's going to try to make you look bad to justify his own behavior. Are you prepared for that?" "No," Maya admitted. "But I'm going to do it anyway. For Zoe. Good girl. Now rest. I'll be in touch." After hanging up, Maya looked down at her daughter, who was making small sucking movements in her sleep, dreaming of milk and warmth and safety. "Your mama's going to be okay," she whispered. "Because Johnsons don't break. We bend, we hurt, but we don't break." And your uncles and aunts? They're about to teach your daddy a lesson about consequences. Yes. I'm very sorry for that timing. Sarah sat down heavily on an antique sofa, her hand on her belly where the baby was kicking. Tell me about the money. All of it. I need to understand what's happening. Robert settled into a chair across from her, pulling out a leather folder. Catherine Zhang came to San Francisco in 1948 with her parents. They were refugees from the Communist Revolution in China. Her father was a traditional medicine practitioner. Her mother made herbal remedies. They opened a small shop in Chinatown. He showed Sarah photographs. A tiny storefront with Chinese characters painted on the window. A stern-looking man in traditional clothes. A beautiful woman grinding herbs with a mortar and pestle. Catherine was brilliant. She won a scholarship to UC Berkeley, studied biochemistry at a time when Chinese women weren't welcome in science. After graduation, she began modernizing her parents' traditional remedies. Testing them. Understanding the active compounds. By 1960, she developed a heart medication based on traditional Chinese herbs that outperformed anything on the market. More photographs. A young Catherine in a lab coat. The same woman at a ribbon-cutting ceremony. Articles from old newspapers. Chinatown pharmacist revolutionizes heart medicine. Sterling Pharmaceuticals was born from that first drug. Catherine built it deliberately, carefully. She refused to go public, keeping the company privately held so she could maintain control. She patented 47 medications over her lifetime. She built manufacturing facilities. Distribution networks. Research labs. By the time she died, Sterling Pharmaceuticals was worth over $1. $2 billion. Sarah stared at the numbers in the folder. Patent revenues. Real estate holdings. Investment portfolios. Art collections. It was incomprehensible. Your mother was her only child, Robert continued. Born in 1965. Elizabeth. Catherine poured everything into her. The best schools, the best opportunities. But Elizabeth hated the pressure. Hated the expectations. When she was 18, she disappeared. Changed her name. Cut off all contact. Catherine searched for years. Hired investigators. Placed ads in newspapers. Nothing worked. Why did my mother run away? Sarah asked. Robert was quiet for a long moment. That's something Catherine never fully understood. Elizabeth left a note saying she wanted a normal life. She wanted to be someone other than Catherine Sterling's daughter. She wanted freedom. She got it, Sarah said bitterly. She married my dad. They were happy. Poor, but happy. They died happy. And they gave Catherine 2 granddaughters she never got to know. Until now. The clock in the hallway chimed midnight. Sarah realized she'd been awake for nearly 20 hours, most of them the worst of her life. Her sister's funeral. Marcus's betrayal. This impossible inheritance. There's more we need to discuss, Robert said gently. But it can wait until morning. I've had the master suite prepared for you. Your grandmother's room. If you're comfortable staying there. I don't know if I'm comfortable with any of this, Sarah admitted. But I'm too tired to care. The master's suite was like something from a movie. King-sized bed with silk sheets. Bathroom with a soaking tub. Walk-in closet filled with maternity clothes in Sarah's exact size. How? Sarah asked the housekeeper who was turning down the bed. Mr. Sterling had everything ordered the moment you confirmed you were coming. he estimated your sizes from recent photographs. If anything doesn't fit, we can have alterations made immediately. Sarah stood in the closet, touching cashmere sweaters and silk blouses. Designer maternity wear that probably cost more than her entire teaching salary for a year. This was her life now. This impossible, surreal life. Jessica found her there, tears streaming down her face. "Hey," her friend said gently. "You okay?" "I don't know how to be this person," Sarah whispered. "I don't know how to be Catherine Sterling's granddaughter. I'm just Sarah Chin. I'm just a high school English teacher who got pregnant and got abandoned. You're Sarah Chin who inherited a pharmaceutical empire. You're Sarah Chin whose husband is about to realize he made the stupidest decision of his life. You're Sarah Chin who's about to become a mother and a CEO and whatever else you want to be. What if I'm not strong enough?" Jessica pulled her into a hug, careful of the pregnant belly. "Sarah, you've survived your parents' death. You've survived watching your only sister die. You've survived your husband publicly humiliating you at a funeral. You're the strongest person I know. You're going to be fine." That night, Sarah lay in her grandmother's bed, her bed now, and felt the baby kicking against her ribs. Strong, insistent movements that reminded her she wasn't alone. She had this child. She had Jessica. She had a grandmother's love that had transcended death itself. And somewhere in Seattle, Marcus was probably celebrating his freedom with Chloe, thinking he'd escaped a burden. Thinking he'd made the smart choice. He had no idea what was coming. Sarah woke to November sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows in momentary confusion about where she was. Then memory returned, Sterling House. San Francisco. Her grandmother's mansion. Her mansion now. She found Jessica already awake in the guest room, scrolling through her phone. "You need to see this," her friend said, holding up the screen. It was a Facebook post from Chloe. A photo of her and Marcus at what looked like an expensive restaurant, champagne glasses raised. The caption read, "Finally free to be with the man I love. Sometimes the best things come from hard choices." #new beginnings #truelove. The post had been made last night. Hours after the funeral. Hours after Marcus had abandoned his pregnant wife. "She tagged you," Jessica said grimly. "Sarah Chin. She wanted you to see it." Sarah felt something cold settle in her chest. Not pain. Not heartbreak. Something harder. Clearer. "Good," she said. "Let her celebrate. Let them both celebrate. They have no idea what's about to happen." Robert Sterling arrived at 9 a.m. with a team of lawyers, accountants, and advisors. They assembled in Catherine's study, Sarah's study, and began walking through the reality of her inheritance. "First, the timing," Robert said. "Your grandmother died 6 months ago. The will has been in probate since then. Normally this would be straightforward, but Emily's recent death complicated matters. We need to update the beneficiary designations and transfer everything to your name. How long will that take? 2 weeks. Maybe 3. During that time, you're technically the heir but you don't have direct access to the accounts." However, he smiled slightly. "Sterling Pharmaceuticals has a discretionary fund for family emergencies. I can authorize up to $10 million immediately for your use." Sarah's hand shook as she signed the authorization forms. $10 million. As an emergency fund. The absurdity made her want to laugh or cry or both. "Now," Robert continued, "about your husband. Marcus Chen. We've done some research. You provided an insult disguised as paperwork. 6 months of expenses for a woman who gave up her career at your insistence. Child support that wouldn't cover daycare in this city. Joint custody while only wanting every other weekend. Mr. Johnson, I've seen more generous offers from people divorcing after 6 months, not 4 years of marriage plus a newborn baby." Derrick's lawyer tried to interrupt, but Judge Monroe held up her hand. "I'm not finished. Mr. Johnson, I'm granting Ms. Johnson full physical and legal custody of the minor child. You will have supervised visitation every other Saturday for 4 hours until such time as you can prove you're capable of responsible parenting. Child support will be calculated at 25% of your actual gross income, and yes, we're including those offshore accounts you tried to hide. And Mr. Johnson? If you file one more frivolous motion questioning Ms. Johnson's fitness as a mother, I will sanction you. Do I make myself clear? Your Honor, Derrick started. I said, do I make myself clear? Yes, Your Honor. After the hearing, Maya stood in the courthouse hallway with her siblings surrounding her like bodyguards. Jonathan was grinning. That went even better than I expected. Monroe destroyed him. He's going to appeal, Nia predicted. His ego won't let this stand. Let him appeal, Marcus said grimly. We'll win again. And again. Until he finally understands that he made the wrong enemy. Maya looked at her siblings, these 5 brilliant, successful, fierce people who loved her unconditionally, and felt overwhelming gratitude. They dropped everything to save her. They'd used their resources, their connections, their influence to protect her and Zoe. They'd reminded her who she was when she'd forgotten. Thank you, she said softly. All of you. I don't know what I would have done without you. You would have figured it out, Simone replied. Because you're a Johnson, and Johnsons don't stay down. But you don't have to figure it out alone. That's what family is for. 6 months later, Maya stood in the living room of her new home, a beautiful townhouse in Baltimore that she'd purchased with her own money, earned from her new job as a senior engineer at Donovan's company. Zoe was in her arms, babbling happily and reaching for the Christmas tree lights. Her siblings were there, all 5 of them, for their first Johnson family Christmas in Maya's new place. Marcus was arguing with Isaiah about football. Simone was helping Nia set the table. Donovan was taking pictures of Zoe, documenting every moment for the family archive they'd started. The final divorce decree had come through last week. Derrick had lost everything he'd fought for: joint custody, lower child support, favorable asset division. He'd ended up paying Maya a substantial settlement plus her legal fees, plus lost the lake house he'd tried to hide, plus watched his reputation crumble as word spread about his conduct. Jasmine had left him 2 months into their marriage, apparently discovering that Derrick's pattern of abandonment extended to all his relationships, not just Maya. Maya, phone. Simone called. It's Mom and Dad. Maya took the call, smiling as her parents' voices came through speakerphone from their retirement home in Florida. They'd been horrified when they learned what Derrick had done, and immensely proud of how their children had rallied around their sister. After the call, Maya stood at the window watching snow fall softly over her neighborhood. Her life looked nothing like she'd imagined a year ago. She wasn't married. She was a single mother. She'd been betrayed and abandoned at her most vulnerable moment. But she was also free. Free from a man who'd never valued her. Free from trying to be someone she wasn't. Free to raise her daughter surrounded by love and support and the fierce protection of her siblings. Zoe made a happy sound, and Maya looked down at her daughter's face, so alert now, so full of personality and joy despite the circumstances of her birth. Your daddy made a mistake, Maya whispered, the same words she'd said in that hospital room 6 months ago. But you know what? His mistake gave us back our life. And that's not such a bad thing. Marcus came up beside her, draping an arm over her shoulders. You did good, baby sis. Really good. We did good, Maya corrected. I couldn't have done any of this without you guys. That's the thing about family, Marcus replied, watching their siblings laugh and argue and fill Maya's new home with noise and love. You never have to do it alone. Not the hard stuff, not the scary stuff, not even the impossible stuff. Because there's always someone who has your back. Outside, the snow continued to fall, covering the old year's mistakes with fresh white possibility. And inside, the Johnson family celebrated, not just Christmas, but survival, resilience, and the unbreakable bonds that held them together through everything. Derrick Johnson had kicked out his pregnant wife at the hospital, thinking she had nowhere to go and no one to turn to. he'd underestimated the quiet strength of the woman he married. But more than that, he'd underestimated what happened when you hurt a member of the Johnson family. Maya's 5 siblings had stepped in, and they'd reminded everyone of a simple truth: mess with one Johnson, and you mess with them all. And that was a fight no one could win.